What's going on, everybody? Welcome to IndieQuest, the celebration of the indie and obscure. Your home for so much cozy video game talk. What kind of video games, you may ask? The indie variety of video games. And my name is Josh. I'm one of your co-hosts today, and I'm here with the illustrious Steve. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm excited. I always enjoy this type of episode. I'm prepped and ready. We've got coffee in one hand, water in the other, so we're double bevy. And excited to chat about some video games.
And I'm also here with the captain himself, Captain Drachma. How are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. I am also excited for this episode. I have been keeping things under wraps for what feels like a month at this point, even though I just played my game this week. And I'm very excited to chat with you fellas about it.
I'm ready to roast some guys. I'm ready to roast you guys and be like, yeah, this game sucked. Your opinions were wrong. So, what we're doing today is second opinions. But before we do that, let's talk about some cool things that, I guess, updates for podcasts, or like what you can do on podcast platforms, Spotify mainly, is you can leave comments on there, which is pretty cool. It's like a YouTube comment section for Spotify, which is really neat. So I figured if we're going to have that option, we can start reading some of them on the show.
Yeah, for sure. So we got one here that already came from our Game of the Year episode. It's from friend of the show, Ross. So thank you, Ross. He says, I wonder why this comment got pulled. He says, I agree with Seth. Cocoon was my Game of the Year. I loved it from beginning to end, a perfectly paced, cozy puzzle game, and I couldn't put it down. Good episode, fellas. Several games jumped way up my list. Well, one, thank you, Ross, for listening. Two, I'm glad that you got some good recommendations. And three, clearly the only game he played last year was Cocoon for it to be his Game of the Year. I mean, I guess it technically is still a type of win, so...
I mean, it's not Patrick's Parabox, right?
We all can agree on that.
I've now made, this will be the third time that I made this joke, but I'm going to make it live-ish on IndieQuest. Ross, I'm happy that there's at least one, I know for a fact that there's at least one smart Minnesotan now. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, I think that was my number 3 game of the year, so I agree. It was pretty high for me. Or was it? I don't even remember. I just threw it up there. I just made a list one day, and I'm like, yeah, that's my list, I guess. I used to do like the whole thing where I would like agonize about it. I was like, what's my number 7? What's my number 6? Kind of like, like Steve does with his streams, but now I'm just like, here's a list of 10 games. What did I like the most? All right, I think that's good. Yeah, at least this year, that's what I did.
I've said it before. It's the 17th best game of 2023, which is an honor to even be mentioned, even if it's an honorable mention.
I will say that I was proud of all of the people that were watching Steve's stream when Steve booted Cocoon. The majority, the outcry of the people were like, "What are you doing?" As early as he did. So hey, at least a lot of people are on my side, or similarly, maybe not quite as high. But all right, I will read the next comment that we received on our last episode, so the most recent episode where we talked about our anticipated indies. This is from Paleona. I'm not entirely sure how to say your name, but thank you for...
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Says, please play more Roboquest and bring it to an episode someday. Amazing game. I've had so much fun with it co-op. Plus, it has a super charming art style and great soundtrack. And you know what? I have honestly... maybe I've heard of Roboquest. Maybe if I looked it up, I will recognize it. But this is the thing we've been asking for years at this point. Somebody to let us know what to play, and I appreciate that. I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, always appreciate the recommendation from folks.
Yeah, I mentioned it like offhandedly because I have played this a little bit, and I think I was like, oh yeah, it's Gunfire Reborn's kind of like Roboquest. I think I just like offhandedly mentioned it or something like that. I've played like 3 or 4 hours of it, and it's really fun. It's a first-person shooter roguelike, and I honestly think it might be better than Gunfire Reborn. And honestly, Seth, I would probably recommend that one over Gunfire if you're going to do a game like that.
Okay.
Just so you said.
Cool. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely check it out.
Awesome. And so you guys, if you want to comment on Spotify, I think that the only way you can do it is mobile so far. It's kind of, I couldn't really find it in the browser version, but if you go in there, it'll be like, what did you think of this episode? And you can just leave a reply there on any episode on Spotify. And this is something that's going to happen going forward. So if there's a fun or interesting comment, and honestly, if there's any comments, we'll probably read them because we love, listener interactions. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, we got an email. It's been a little while. We always ask for them, but I'll read the wonderful email. If you want to send us an email, it's indiequestpod@gmail.com, and it's from Bright Soul with 2 L's, and they said, "Hello, y'all." Oh, maybe they're from the South. Y'all. I just discovered your podcast a few days ago, and I really like listening to it while I commute to college. I plan to keep listening to most past episodes, but I noticed you didn't talk about Kenshi 2 in your episode regarding the most anticipated indie games of 2024. And I choose to see that as you not knowing about it, and then I refuse to acknowledge the possibility that it may simply not be your cup of tea. We'll talk about that maybe. Kenshi is, in my opinion, one of the greatest indie games, and it embodies the spirit and love that I think of when indie games come to mind. It was designed by one dude over the course of 20 years. Crazy. Jeez. It's massively imperfect, but the passion and soul that he infused into it led to a game that, even with all its issues, shines brighter than the sun. If you have already spoken of it, then please disregard this email, which obviously we'd never heard of it, so we're reading it now. And if it's simply not your thing, then disregard this email. But I think it would be totes poggers. Ooh, the hip lingo, if you talked about it in the next episode. Sincerely, someone who doesn't know why he wrote this.
Hey, again, thank you for recommendations. I have to say, it's a little targeted when you say massively imperfect. That's calling my name. That's someone saying, "Hey, buddy, get on over here and check this out."
That's long form for jank.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, they said they are doing it on their commute to college, so that's some highbrow jank. Yeah, all right, yeah. Some educated. Love to see it. But yeah, thank you for the recommendation. I honestly don't get a good sense of the game from screenshots and stuff, but if I can fit it into the schedule here of the many games lined up for 2024, certainly will. Although admittedly, it won't be next episode, so I apologize for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what it is. It's kind of like a strategy, like survival type game.
Yeah.
I can tell, maybe.
Hard to tell.
I've got a buddy that I used to work with, but we still chat from time to time. But we used to travel all the time together. And I guarantee that he would be super into this game because it seems like a sandbox strategy survival type game, right? And some people just go all in on those. They'll just put hundreds of hours into them trying to build the world and do their thing. But yeah, that reminded me. Honestly, I need to check out a game like this. They're just kind of imposing a little bit.
Yeah, they are, right?
Yeah. And a lot of times it's like like Pal World, like, that's popping off lately and stuff like that. It's like, oh my God. So I did pop into Pal World. This is maybe a little tangent, but it's relevant. I popped in there and I looked at like all the upgrade trees, and like it just kept going. Like, okay, it's like, oh, that crafting table. Oh, you can do a crossbow. And then I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. At the bottom, there's a rocket launcher. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you're making your way up to get a rocket launcher, it looks like, in this game. But anyway, it's like blow up a fake Blastoise or something. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I'm looking at Kenshi here on the website, at least the first one. It says, scrape by and survive, customize your squad, choose to be a thief, a bandit, a rebel, a warlord, or a mercenary. So it seems like there's some role-playing elements to it and some survival elements, and it's kind of like lo-fi looking. It kind of reminds me of like a 90s PC game or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's got some Diablo vibes or something like that, or that kind of look. But yeah, definitely will be on our radar moving forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. But boys, it's a second opinion episode. For all of our new listeners and our returning listeners, and we maybe don't catch every episode, second opinion is our episode to revisit games on the quest log. So if you go to bit.ly/questlog, you can see every game we've ever talked about on the show in any meaningful capacity. And second opinion is our chance for us to, plumb those depths, find something on there that another host brought, and try it out ourselves, see how we felt about the game, give the game a little bit of a a little bit of a refresh in people's minds, and ultimately, did I agree with you or did I not? So, I think we've all got a game teed up. Does anybody in particular want to go first today?
I went ahead and threw my dibs out there. I want to go in the middle because I kind of like being the sandwich on this episode, I think. So you guys decide who goes first and last.
Your call, buddy. I'm completely cool either way. If you want the dramatic finale, I'll go first.
No, I'll go first because I want to tee up my question early. We discussed prior to the pod today that I would have a question. And I'm going to say it now. That question is, would you guys be opposed? And I'm going to spoil this right this second. I brought a game that Steve played in the past. Which I think I'm trying to go back and forth between the hosts. Kind of play fair. Steve was up. Would you guys be opposed to having maybe a little mini spoiler talk section after the credits roll?
Oh, interesting. Of this show?
Of this game that I'm about to talk about.
Oh, have I played the game? Or?
You haven't. That's why I was going to be like, Josh, you're welcome to come. But it's a game that might spoil it.
I'm more than willing to talk spoilers with you, and yeah, we can tuck it at the end of the episode so folks don't have to worry about jumping between timestamps and stuff. We'll throw it in after all the plugs and everything at the end. But yes, I'm certainly willing.
The reason I asked this is because otherwise I think that my conversation, I'm not going to have a whole lot more to bring to this conversation than Steve already brought, because I'm going to be talking Inscryption.
Yes.
I
knew that's what the game was as soon as you were like, oh yeah.
And that's why I couldn't ask about that. Like, I was going to say something in our chat earlier this week, but as soon as I said that, you guys were like, you're going to talk about Inscryption.
As soon as you ask a question, I'm scrolling through rapid fire back through the quest log. I'm like, Icy? That's kind of a spoilery game, I guess. XO1? No, that can't be it. It's like, what's going to be?
Oh, yeah. I played Inscryption, too. No, I'm just kidding. I did. That'd be awesome, though.
That would have been awesome. I would have loved that. So, Inscryption. I apologize to everyone listening. Steve just brought Inscryption on episode 71. So we're only 6 episodes removed from that. But when a dear friend of mine says, this game is a game that you specifically should play, I'm going to play it as soon as I can. And I did, and I'm going to spoil it now. I think that everyone probably would know this. It's a great game. Everyone should play Inscryption.
Yeah.
You were right, Steve. It is absolutely... It is.
I knew it.
I mean, incredible. Probably, I was meaning to save this for the end of my chat, but probably like a top 10 game all time. Seriously.
Hell yeah. Wow. Let's go.
Damn. I love Inscryption. So that usually for these episodes, second opinion, since we've already kind of talked, like someone on the show has already talked at length about and basically given a mini review on this game. I don't typically come in here and rehash everything. I just say, here's what I like and here's what I don't, right? And that's kind of, that's what I'm going to do now. So I'll give a brief overview of Inscryption. Came out in 2021. Daniel Mullins. Came out on everything. It's a roguelite, deck builder, escape room, question mark. That is what Inscryption is. So, things I like. I have heard some differing opinions and talked to some of our pals at MagFest, and you guys would probably guess this. Burger is very opinionated. We've had Burger on here twice, right? It came on for Sea of Stars and brought Chained Echoes. Burger says that he loves the game, but is not a fan of the card game. I could not be more opposed to that opinion. I think the card game is awesome.
I'm with you. Like, I understand if you're coming at it where it's maybe not as deep as like a Slay the Spire or something. Now, granted, I haven't played Slay the Spire, but from everything I've heard about it, it's maybe a little less deep than that, but like, I think I said this on the episode too. If Inscryption was just the card game, it would still be good. Like, it would still be worth playing.
And you mentioned on the show that once you finish the game, you get to just play the card game, and I have done that a decent amount. I mean, it's
Same.
It's good. So I went back. Everyone should go back and listen to our episode on Inscryption, episode 71. Steve talked about it at length. But I kind of have my own comparison for the card game. We kind of talked about it in that episode, but to me, it really, really reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which we discussed. Mm-hmm. But it's more like there was a PS1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Game called Forbidden Memories. Don't know if anybody out there has played it, but it was very like bare bones Yu-Gi-Oh! There's no effects. It's just attack power and defense, and that's it. And that is kind of, there's not a whole lot of, well, there are effects, I suppose, on your cards. It's a little bit different, but it's very bare bones. If you have a card, the most interesting thing about this game, and the thing that took me a second to wrap my head around, coming from a game like Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I've played a decent amount throughout the years, you can place your card, and you attack the card that's directly in front of your card. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Yu-Gi-Oh!, you have to clear the other person's side of the board before you can like directly attack their life points. So it becomes strategic in certain games where you can move your cards in such a way that you can attack directly, even if they have strong cards in the way. And you can finish the game when it looks like, honestly, you're about to lose. You can kind of sneak attack, get a bunch of damage off at once, and then move on. And I really enjoy that. It adds a layer of strategy.
Yep. And importantly to that, health totals are very low. You don't actually have traditional health. It swings back and forth on a scale, but like from neutral to dead is 5 hit points, basically. And it's not that hard to sneak attack 1 or 2 creatures that can do that. There's a lot of games where, you know, I was sort of like down for the count, and you get just one enemy maybe that has the like ability to like split attack into 2 lanes, and you hit 2 empty lanes at the same time, and suddenly the game is yours.
In our spoiler section, I will mention what I did once. I don't necessarily know that it spoils something, so I don't want to mention it. But yeah, that is something I do want to talk about. And I think you went into it a little bit, Steve, but I don't think it's spoilery. It's just the card game. The effects that your cards can get are so much fun. I love. It's like you can evolve your cards in a way. It almost is like a mixture of Pokemon in some ways. Depending on the routes you take throughout the roguelite, you can evolve your card with a different effect. And a card that you had that had this usefulness can all of a sudden just be twice as useful in a completely different way. And I love that. I love that about this game. I love that so much. And that's, you know, along with all the other stuff that the game does, that is the main reason, you know, it vaults itself into a top 10 of mine, right? So yeah, like you said, life points, and, you know, there's sacrifice, just like Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to sacrifice a card on your side for one of your stronger cards to bring it on the board. Graphics, I really enjoy the graphics. It gives me kind of like a CRT filtered high-res PS1 vibe in a way.
Yeah, that's a solid way of saying it. It's like pixely, but also kind of like wiggly or something in the way that like a CRT would be. Yeah, there's like always a haze, like a weird. It's always really dark, which obviously plays into a lot of what you're not supposed to know until you're supposed to know it. But yeah, very interesting. The space you can move around in is cool. The art, the details on the cards themselves is awesome. Like pencil drawn, very cool. Story, can't really say anything, but incredible. Everyone should experience Inscryption for its story. Yeah. And I love the game for its spoilers that I can't mention here. There's just too much that I can't talk about that make this game incredible, and people just have to experience. I think Steve put it well, where it's like, he said, hey, if you're not entirely sure you want to play Inscryption, but you're interested, then listen to this. And I guess we've already gotten to this point, but everyone out there that has even the slightest curiosity should at least buy Inscryption on sale. It goes on sale often enough. You can pick it up for $10. If you hate it, then I just doubt very many people are ever going to hate it. Honestly, it's got something for everybody. Yeah, very much so. And it'll probably only keep going on sale as Daniel Mullins gears up for his next game to come out Pony Island 2. So it'll always be there for you. And man, it is a ride.
It is.
Yeah, it's a Devolver, I think. So Devolver, it's going to be on sale, and I think it's on both. Is it on Xbox Game Pass? I know it's on PS Plus or whatever, the PS Plus Extra or Premium or whatever tier. So that's how I plan to play it eventually. But you're saying this is your top 10. It's like, maybe I should get around to it sooner rather than later, right?
I will say there are specific reasons it's in my top 10. Like I can't give them all away. They'll be in the spoiler section if anybody's played Inscryption, but it's just a lot of what it does really appeals to me, I suppose, and in a lot of ways, the gameplay and everything. So, what I don't like, honestly, I actually put a bullet point on my sheet. I like almost everything. Like, there's not a whole lot I don't like. If I have to pick something apart, the music, the sound effects are really good. The music is interesting. It's almost it plays very well in the game, but it is not something. I tried to listen to it just as I was working, and it's like impossible. It's really weird. It's like they start with a melody and they throw in some off-tune instruments to make it creepy, and that's like every song. I don't know if you noticed that or not, Steve. It's just it's haunting for sure. It definitely sets the mood. It's just there's nothing there that is extremely listenable outside of the game, I guess, in my opinion. There are certain songs, they vary as it goes on. So there's some stuff that's worthy of listening to, but for the general portion of it, that's how I feel. But honestly, I know that honestly wasn't very long, but that's all I can really say about this game. I'll say it one more time. If it's something that interests you, go play it. If we do a little bit of a little spoilery section where we just gab back and forth about, oh, this thing was fun and this thing was cool, then if you listen to that, you're going to be spoiled. And this is not the type of game you want to go in and be spoiled. I am so happy that there are certain parts of this game that I did not see screenshots of. I'll just say that.
Yep.
Nice.
I'm really glad that, you had that experience, because it would have been very easy for someone to inadvertently spoil something for you that would have made it impactful.
I will say the dev, they did a great job of, like, on their Steam page, everything, like all the stuff that they put out themselves, they do a great job of not spoiling their own game. So that's really good. Yeah.
All it takes is, one dude's YouTube thumbnail, and suddenly it's over for you. So,
seriously.
All right. And what was that game you played recently? Amanda the Adventure or whatever, that showed like a bunch of the game, like in the trailers and everything.
But I will say Amanda the Adventure is a little bit different because it does the typical horror movie thing where it's like, hey, we're going to give you a jump scare or two so that you know what's coming. We're not going to spoil everything, but we have to get you interested. We have to pull you in. Inscryption, it's almost like interesting because it's mysterious, and that's what gets you there.
It's like, it's a creepy card game. That's what I know. Steve mentioned a couple of things. I know it does a few things, but I don't know what the twist is or the secrets are. So you guys can do the spoiler talk if you want. I will probably dip out if you do decide to, but
we will. I would love to, and I think the people that listen to the other episode that have played Inscryption would also be happy to hear that, so.
I agree. Okay,
awesome.
I'm done.
You're
nice.
I'm done. Up to you, Josh. You're the cream filling.
I'm the cream filling here. Okay. I played a game. Okay, so last time I played Death's Door, and I really liked it. It was really great.
Mm.
I'm just gonna say that because Steve's here. I'll just rub it in a little bit. But I did play a Steve game this time.
Nice.
So
Oh.
see if you guys can guess. You probably have the quest log opened up, but it was brought to the quest log last year, December 22nd, by Steve. What
Wait.
game do you think it is?
2023 or 2022?
2022. 2022. Sorry, I'm still living in 20. Yeah, so it's brought a year and a month ago.
Gosh, that was.
I'm gonna say.
I'm betting it was a side quest.
I bet you would have picked a main quest. I'm gonna say it's Tinykin.
It's Tinykin.
Yeah, that was a good guess. That's
a solid pick. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've been wanting to play this for a while. Anyway, but man, Tinykin, what a game! This game is gorgeous. This is one of those games you turn on and like right when you get into the start menu, you're smiling and then you don't stop for the entire runtime of the game. It's pretty much joy the video game. So I actually completely agree with you it being on the main quest. So there's no like contention here between us on this one. I really enjoyed this game quite a bit. So
2 Steve picks in a row, both main quests, both getting the seal of approval.
Both were the only 2 main quest games Steve brought in the last 2 years. Like, lucked out.
That's true.
Maybe we should do. This is something maybe I'll do later. Is do a third tab on the quest log. That's the side quest seal of approval, and then like the games we brought.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, the game's beautiful. If you haven't seen Tinykin, it's basically a Saturday morning cartoon. You play a little guy named Milo. He gets basically stranded on Earth, but he's tiny, and there are Tinykin that have a bunch of like different abilities that you can do, kind of similar to Pikmin. You got like dudes that can stack up. You can like stack them up, and it's a 3D platformer. It's a collectathon. There's not much friction in the game. You're not really fighting bosses or anything. It's basically here's a kitchen, explore, find everything in the world, and here's a staircase. Okay, what's in the staircase? Find everything. And it's a lot of fun. There's like lot of little side objectives you could do, and pretty much the entire game is solving little puzzles inside of like, a world. You're basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kidsing your way through this very cute and charming world. Yeah. So
I love that aesthetic. I love the vibe of. I'm always cool with a game where I'm a little tiny dude, a little tiny something or other in a normal world that is large relative to my scale. It's fun to be Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'll do the things I liked about the game and then disliked, just like Seth did. I'm going to steal your format here. You made up the episode type, so let's keep on going with that. So I liked pretty much the presentation of the game's awesome. I have a thing like where I was kind of worried that maybe it would be not as fun to play because it's like a flat 2D image that you're jumping around with, and I was like, is that going to feel weird or anything? But honestly, like it feels just as good. Like honestly, I would like say this game feels similar to Spyro in a lot of ways because of the gliding that you can do. Like maybe Spyro's a little heavier. Like the character's a little lighter in this feeling, but I would say if you like Spyro, you're gonna love this game. Honestly, like it's just literally like here's some collectibles. The main collectible in the game is pollen. You're trying to get pollen all over the world, and I think that's like the biggest collectible with like the most. There's like areas with like 1,000 of them or 2,000 or whatever. Like
10K total pollen across the whole game. It's like coins in Mario, but you actually like collect it and use it in a meaningful way.
Right. And then like it's like, so say like the kitchen's a good example. There'll be like, okay, you got to bake a cake. All right. So you got to open the fridge. How do you open the fridge? You got to get a key. Okay. You got to get a key to open the fridge, and then you get the eggs out of the fridge, and then, or, probably like the butter out of the fridge, and you use the Tinykin. And then there's like Tinykins that can like make a platform. I guess I don't know how spoilery it really, like there's only like a handful of things they can do, but I always thought it was fun. Like there's like a little cute cutscene you get when you meet the new Tinykin with the new powers. So maybe I won't spoil much of that, but, yeah, so say you get the eggs and the everything and you make the cake, and then that's awesome, and you get like this collectible thing, and you're trying to build like a rocket ship to get out of this planet that you're stranded on. And I I wanted to keep playing this game so badly. Like I just feel like the way it plays is so perfect. Like even like there's like a little soap board that you play on that you skate around, and it feels so good. Like I was like, damn, this is like Tony Hawk kind of, you know, like this is Tony Hawk light. You know what I mean? It's like if you took all the tricks out of Tony Hawk and you just can grind and you can like slip around. That's pretty much what it is. So
I remember watching Steve stream it, and the sliding on the soap thing was the most satisfying. It just looks so crispy. Like it just looks so good.
It is.
Like
it
it's
is
such a good mechanic.
Yeah, and it's one of those mechanics in games where the very first time you use it, you already feel like a pro at it. Like you already feel like you can do like fancy little tricks and whip around corners and stuff. It's so natural feeling.
Yeah, and the only thing you do to do it is you can at any point, like you can be platforming at any point and just hold R1 and you're just like instantly grinding on stuff and skating around. Super dope. I like the mechanics with the Tinykin. I think that they have a good variety in the gameplay, even though it's all just exploration. Like it doesn't feel boring at any moment of the game. I felt like very captivated and like, okay, what's up here? What's in that corner over there? Oh, I haven't been over there. Maybe I missed something. I'll go back over there and maybe I'll find something I didn't see before. And like I spent probably more time just surfing around on my little soap board and just enjoying the like finding every little nook and cranny in each of these areas. So to me, like there's not much negative. It's pretty much the same. Like, so I guess Steve is like batting 1,000 right now, but hey, it is what it is. the games are good. They're good. You know? Yep. I didn't have a moment in this game where I was frustrated. I will say I was like, this is pretty cool. All right, let's keep on going. I will say if I had any like negative things to say about the game, there is a lot of collectibles, and if I wanted to get 100%, I tried to do it on one of them, and I was missing like 2 pollen, and I'm like just skating around like, where the hell is this 2 pieces of pollen? And I just never could find it. So it's just one of those where you're kind of like hunting around for the one thing you're missing. So
I had 2 or 3 levels like that, and I was like, several times I could have swore that I went on every single inch of that level, like up, down, left. I was like, I've 3-4 laps around this thing. I was like, for sure this game, like the pollen just bugged out, like the tracker didn't update or something, and it didn't work. But then every time, nope, there's always something hidden somewhere. And it's funny, there isn't like a easy way to tell what pollen that you're missing, and so there were 1 or 2 situations where I was like, I just gotta like look up and see if I'm missing 1 pollen. And you do the thing where you start looking at like comments of YouTube videos and stuff and try to find people that were like, this is the last 2 pollen I found. And they tell you all like the weird tricky spots. So then you go check all those, and it's none of those either. And you're like, well, now I'm missing one of the apparently the obvious ones. So now I'm extra stressed. And
a lot of times it would be like you're like, you can like open up little grind rails that go like to the top of the world, and there's like pollen on them.
Yep.
And I'm like, there's like one way up there. I can see it. All right, I guess I got to get up there and get it right now.
Yep, for sure.
So, yeah, and then like you have, like I said, you have a glide mechanic, and then every time you get to different areas, you can upgrade that by collecting enough pollen for that like level. So say the kitchen, I keep using that as an example. I get like 900 pollen, and then you can talk to a dude, and you get like 1 more soap bubble. And then more soap bubbles means longer gliding, and it's nice to like unlock all of those and like go back to the first level and just kind of glide around. You feel like you're glitching the game. Like I feel like I shouldn't be able to like get from here to here so easily and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm very grateful I played this game. I think the music's good. I think the graphics are good. I think the gameplay is really, really solid. Just a really nice, cozy game. Like it's easy to just kick back and play and just have a good time with. Like, it's so good. Have you played this, Seth, at all?
I have not. I've only witnessed Steve play it on stream, and I'm not the biggest 3D platformer fan. I have nostalgia for certain ones, specifically Spyro. So I would probably enjoy this based on both of your recommendation. Yeah. The thing about this game is, if anyone were to watch gameplay, it is so hard to like poke holes in anything. It's such a pristine game. It's so nice for an indie. Like it's it's almost AAA looking in a lot of ways, just kind of shrunken down into, like, pun intended, I suppose, into a smaller experience than you're going to get out of a Super Mario Odyssey or something. But they spent their time very well and their money very well, because it's just so pristine. It's so like AAA looking almost.
Yeah. Way better than other similar 3D platformers, I feel like, for some reason or another.
Yeah, it's like they took a pinch of Mario Odyssey, they took a pinch of Pikmin, they took a little bit of Spyro, and they like kind of like stirred it up with a Saturday morning cartoon, and this is what you get, and it's like, oh, and a little bit of Tony Hawk too, because why not? Right, and it's just a really nice package. It's like a 6-hour game. It took me probably like 8 or 9 hours because, like I said, I was just enjoying it so much. I just wanted to be in the world more. Like if there was 6 or 7, 10 more levels, I would play more of this game. So, and they do I guess spoilers. They set it up for a sequel. If they want to go and make a sequel to this, I'm down. I'm playing this. Like I can imagine that they do like an amusement park, or they do like a jungle gym. They can like go outside of the house. I feel like that'd be really cool if they like expanded it more. But anyway,
I think so too. It's also, I mean, maybe not like a super young kid, but I feel like it's a good game for all ages because it's entirely combat free. Like there's hazards, but there's not like action combat, and so it's just kind of the joy of exploring around, which I think would be a lot of fun for someone who's like relatively newish to games to just kind of poke around at. I mean, you get into some of the frickin' Tony Hawk grinds and stuff, and that starts to get maybe a little advanced, but still, I think a solid one to introduce to the younger generation.
Yeah. So say like you're like on top of the stage and you're trying to like glide to somewhere and you fall, you're going to just spawn right there at that same platform. So there's like almost no barrier to entry. There's no lives. There's no like bad boss to beat or anything. It's just, I'm here. The music's awesome. And it actually like changes a lot in the level. Like it has like different, like say I walk into like a casino, quote unquote, in one of the levels. It's like a, ant casino or something. And like the music kind of slightly changes to like a casino vibe version of that song. So, and then you go like to like, oh, I'm going to go over where there's like a fake quote unquote waterfall, and it kind of changes a little bit to like a waterfall area, and like I like the music so much, and like it's just nice to kind of like sit there and you notice it as you're going through, and it's toe tapping music. It's good. I feel like you can listen to it while you work, and this game's great. I like this might be one of my favorite games of the year so far. I mean, I haven't played very many games this year, so that's easy to say, but it's really, really fun.
Heck yeah. It is really, really fun. That's why we put it on the main quest.
I'm glad you brought it back up again, Josh, because even though I haven't played it, I feel like of the indies that came out last year, Tinykin, certainly people knew about it, but I feel like it's still kind of went under a lot of people's radar. So more people that can hear about it, the better, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Go play it. Nice.
Yeah. Stamp of approval.
Stamp. I also brought a game that I brought to the quest log. So. No, I didn't.
Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's still a main quest.
As I always do, I played it for the 30th time. It still rules. No. All right. So I also brought a game from not too long ago. Actually, mine is the most recent of any of our picks, I think.
Wow,
I will say it's a game that I said I wanted to get around to, but I didn't have a chance to. It's one that our good buddy Seth brought.
Oh.
And it is, in fact, the most recent main quest game. It's Meg's Monster.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you played it.
I did play it, yes. It's again one that I felt bad that I didn't get around to it in 2023 in time for my game of the year. And actually, it was after listening to the latest episode of IndieQuest, Leah, my fiance, she was like, "What's that game that Drachma was talking about? That sounds pretty good." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's Meg's Monster." She's like, "We should play that." And I was like, "Well, all right, let's go ahead and play that.
Let's do it."
Leah, I'm so sorry if I just built it up and it just wasn't what I made. I feel like I really build up games sometimes, and I'll let Steve go.
No, you're no me. I'm the one that's like, man, Crumble, guys, you got to play some Crumble.
Hey, Crumble is fun. All right.
It is fun. It's a good time. I was just really hot on it. You do things when you're young that you might want to change, but it's set in stone. So there we go.
It's a shame that there's no way to edit a row of an Excel sheet once it's been made. You just have to leave it there.
No, it's there forever. It's
Steve. I have to know what the song is that you were thinking of. That I got to know that first.
So I wanted to look up the soundtrack to this game, and I think you mentioned this in the episode that it's just not like online really.
No,
you can find the ending credits song,
which is a beautiful song. But
it is a gorgeous song, but it's entirely different from like the rest of the game's soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's like it's a tonal shift, and so I wanted some of like the meat and potatoes music, and it's just not there. But folks who know me or have seen photos online or whatever it might be will know that I was in my younger days a little emo in my heart. All right, I was a little emo boy, and for those of you that were going through it in 2006, you'll remember a little song called "Monster" by Meg and Dia, little emo girl band from the time. And after looking it up, that was like the fourth result on the list for Meg's Monster soundtrack.
Oh,
and I was like, I haven't heard this song in freaking almost 20 years. And I listened to that. I was like, yeah, dude, it's good to be emo. It's good to be emo. Let's go, baby.
I love it. That's such a funny, unrelated coincidence. I'm surprised. I probably have heard the song, but I just haven't listened to it in a long time. But I'm sure I saw it while I was scrolling, trying to find Meg's Monster music on YouTube.
Yep. And I don't want to oversell it for people, but you know what? Go listen to "Monster" by Meg and Dia and see if you remember the mid 2000s. It was one of those I saw it and I was like, that looks like a song I would have heard, but I don't remember it. And I clicked on it, and it's one of those that is the second it starts playing, I know every word and I'm singing along to it. I'm like, wow, my brain really filed this away in the keep section. Okay, I guess it's good to know. Yeah. Anyways, the video game Meg's Monster. It's a turn-based RPG. It's actually, I would almost want to argue it's like a turn-based RPG / visual novel, but it's not really a visual novel. It's just very story-heavy. It's like you spend a lot of time walking and talking, which is true in a lot of RPGs, but in this game, I feel like you could probably count up on your hands. Like, there's maybe like 10 to 15 battles total in the whole game. Maybe a couple more than that. But like,
no, yeah, you're probably right. I mean,
it's not a ton.
Right. And it's more linear than Final Fantasy X. So very linear.
Extremely linear, yes. In fact, the battles are spread out enough where there isn't even an experience system in the game. It's just after every battle, you just level up and get new stats. Which never really matters because there's no way to grind, so they always know how many stats you're going to have in any given fight, which is nice. It means that you can sort of tune the combat to it. But anyways, let me again, for folks that have never played this before, it's developed by Odin Cat, they also did, is it Bear and Breakfast? Is there other one?
No, Bear's Restaurant.
Bear's Restaurant.
Oh yeah,
it's a bear indie. I knew it was one of those two.
Bear and Breakfast, they could have done that too. Honestly, I'm not entirely. The one I played is Bear's Restaurant.
Restaurant. Okay.
Yeah.
And Meg's Monster's out on Xbox, Switch, and PC. I played it on Xbox. I don't remember if it was on Xbox at the time we talked about it last time, but it is now.
Might have been.
Yeah, but that's the place where I played it. So, again, I won't rehash everything we talked about, especially because it was a relatively recent episode, but the broad setup for the game is that it takes place in this underground world. It's a society of monsters, and they've sort of established their own way of life. They have sort of a neutrality with humans in this world, and then They are constantly surrounded by like debris, waste, things like that. And it's just kind of like them getting by. They don't seem upset by it. It's like this is just their life as they've known it. And every now and again, a human shows up into that world. And in the case of Meg's monster, a young girl named Meg shows up. And the entire focus of the combat is to protect her. So you as a monster are like Omega stats. Like you're like the secret final boss from another RPG. Yep. You gotta get to the end of the game in 13 hours, and you have to have the Excalibur 2 equipped to take you on. And even then, you're gonna do nothing. But you taking damage of any kind upsets the little girl, and you're managing her emotional health rather than your physical health. And so, and there's story reasons for that. I won't really go into it. It's kind of early in the game, but again, I don't want to give too many spoilers for people. But you have to protect this girl for a reason, and it's sort of there's probably a word for the trope, but it's like an unlikely duo paired together that grow together over time and through each other grow and change. It's that kind of story.
It's very much like Lilo and Stitch in a way. Stitch is this all-powerful alien, not big like Roy, obviously, but could destroy everyone in Hawaii, right? And then Lilo's just this little girl hanging out with this monster. So,
yeah, very, very much so. As a game, I think it's pretty clear that it takes at least some inspiration from Undertale. I mean, the setup for the game is very similar, and there seems to be a bit of a nod to some of like the themes there and things like that, but it also completely does its own thing. It's a very, very fun game. So I'll also break down what I liked and what I did not like about Meg's Monster. It's now that I've played it, it's a lot easier for me to remember if it's Meg's Monster or Meg's Monsters. In my head, I could never remember if monsters was plural. It's not. It's just one.
Yeah, she's only got one. Well, she's kind of got two, but never mind.
Yeah, there's just you. You're a big blue hunk. You kind of look like, honestly, you look like one of the last bosses from a Resident Evil game, but like with a color palette swap. You've got like a big meaty arm with an eyeball in it and stuff.
Like a crab arm.
Yeah, which, by the way, I will say, nice touch. This is a small delight that I liked in the game. Whenever the monster makes a specific facial expression, the eye will make the expression too. It matches what he's doing with his face. Which is,
I didn't pick that up. That's good. I didn't actually pick that up. That's cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot of attention to detail, a lot of care put into the visuals. But I like a lot of the characters. Some of them initially felt a little one note or like predictable, but a lot of them, almost all of them, grow and change over the course of the story. And there's actually a decent handful of characters that you get to know, both like traveling with you directly and also with your, and also like characters in and around the story itself. So I think that's pretty good. I liked that the direction the story went, and I'm going to be as general as I can, but I felt like up to a point, it was very predictable. Like I felt like I could see the ending written in stone from the moment I pressed start on the main menu. I was like, all right, I know what's happening.
Yep.
And then when it got to that point, I was like, I knew it. But then there's more that I didn't know. And not necessarily, I'm not trying to be a coy boy like Inscryption style. It's not like suddenly it turns into a freaking NBA Jam or something. But like, but it did. They knew, they kind of called my bluff, right? Like they knew that I would predict where events went, and they're like, well, yeah, we'll give that to you, but also, you know what? We got you. We're still going to surprise you here and there.
I think Odin Cat realizes, because I felt the exact same way. I don't know how much I led on about it in the episode because I was just really trying not to spoil things. But you're right. The story is very tropey and is a very linear. Like I've seen this story before. I've predicted this. I've played the To the Moon games. I'm going to see it coming from a mile away. But then, and it gets there, and then it does, like you said, it does something else where it's like, oh. So it's almost like they were guiding you. They were holding your hand to the point where you knew that you were going to go, and then they rip you a different direction, kind of, So, yeah, it's interesting.
And and they know what they're doing because they based on how that plays out, they know what they're doing. So it was a fun surprise. You know, maybe this is a little bit arrogant of me to say, but as I was playing it, I was like, I see you developers, you're so predictable. And then at some point they were like, what, you think that we didn't see that you would think this? Like, you think you're so much better than us?
Yep, that back and forth. Yep.
I like that quite a bit. I also just kind of generally love the presentation, which is vague and not particularly helpful to say, but like for a game that is a pixel art game, especially for a game that is using like a style of pixel art that is pretty popular, or like familiar to me at least, with the like single black pixel border outline around characters and stuff like that. It looks really good, and there's a huge variety and attention to detail. Like there's so much happening in the game, and there's so many different like locations and expressions and animations and everything. There's just a lot.
I'm looking at the Steam page just to remind myself. It has only been like 2-3 months since I played this game, but right on like the first picture, it's the video that's about to start playing. So this is not spoilery. You see this skull and then all this trash, but that skull and that area in that game is so detailed for this kind of game, like the amount of attention they put into it. So it's not just, I think of it as GBA graphics or something, but so much of this, they're like the pixels on a GBA couldn't handle all this extra stuff they're putting into their background. So Undertale is a good comparison, I suppose. Although I still feel like this is almost more detailed than Undertale in certain ways.
I definitely think
I would say so. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, much, and I think more variety. Yeah, just in general, and detail. So yeah, I like that. I like the direction the story went. Soundtrack very good. I think that it's very catchy music for what it is. Again, it's a shame that you can't go like listen to that battle music somewhere else easily.
Seriously.
Because it is quite nice. Although you can on YouTube find that ending song, and it is still very nice. If you want a nice, touching ending song. So, yeah, all in all, that's what I liked about it. What did I not like about it? I would say I wouldn't really knock it against them, but there was that first 2-3 hours where I felt like I was going through the motions is harsh, but it's like I was on tracks that I was familiar with, or I felt like I was familiar with. And then even if they're going to play with your expectations a little bit, every time I hit an event being like, this is exactly what I thought would happen. This is exactly what I thought would happen, was like, okay. But other than that, I think my only other, like, my one critique for the game would be that the battle system is fun, but it's a little restrictive. So for folks that aren't aware, there's a variety of types of battles, but the main core type of battle is the monster protecting Meg. Enemies will do attacks that will deal some amount of damage to the monster, usually not very much. You know, we're talking like double-digit damage for a character that has 10,000 health. No, 100,000 health.
99,999, yeah.
Yeah. And so then Meg, who has a much more reasonable, like, emotional health bar of like maybe 100, will take some percentage of the damage that the monster took to her mental health. And you can kind of like restore her HP bar by playing with toys with her in battle, which also great the animation of him doing the rocket ship every time. He's like following it with his eyes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes,
amazing.
I love it.
Really, really good. And then there is some variety in, like, they add some twists on top, and sometimes characters will have like special attacks or like strong attacks that they'll usually they'll give some sort of hint that it's coming soon. Either they'll take a full turn to charge up a big attack, or they'll give some indication that a strong attack is coming, and then you can guard and you'll take obviously less damage. The problem being, at least that I kind of felt, is that since you can only use each toy once in battle, battles, like by definition, can only last so long. And so there's not a lot of room to like improvise or like mix up your strategy. It's kind of like every battle has one correct order of actions that you're just sort of working out, to the point where like even some monsters will do like the same 3 attacks in an exact cycle. They'll be like weak attack, double hit, big beefy attack, weak attack, double. So you just kind of do the math in your head of what the right order of operations is, and then it's just you executing that math to see the battle through.
It's almost as if the RPG battles are a mechanism to progress the story.
Yeah, that's
literally. You know what? I think that's literally. I mean, the way. So I played Bear's Restaurant. We've talked about it before. Main quest game. Also by Odin Cat. Bear's Restaurant is Meg's Monster if there were no battles.
Yeah.
And what I will say is Bear's Restaurant tells a better story than Meg's Monster, but Meg's Monster is the better game because it introduces that extra stuff. You know what I mean? The battles aren't great all the time. They're more of a puzzle than anything, but so like you still get a lot of extra story bits out of practically every battle, because practically every battle is basically a boss fight because there's only so many of them. Yeah. So the person the monster, whoever you're up against, you're kind of going back and forth, and you're learning things as you play. So the battles, yeah, I agree with you. The battles are very simplistic, and there probably is more than one way to end a battle, but for the most part, it's just teaching you, hey, you hit a bumper, you're bowling, you hit that bumper, you stay down the middle. Stay down the middle.
Bumper bowling is the perfect way to describe it, honestly. And they're sort of they almost shot themselves in the foot, because the battle system is just fun enough where I wanted more complexity and more depth. If it was pared back even a little more, I'd be like, okay, this is like, I'm just going through the motions for the sake of character development. But it just rode that line where I was like, just give me a little more, just a titch more. But you are right that yes, there's like, there's no random encounters. There's not even any random enemies. You're never getting into a fight with something that you aren't like very aware of who or what you're fighting. So yeah, honestly, other than that, I don't really have any complaints. This feels like the perfect game that sort of divides stereotypical me from the two of you, because all the components added up, I was like, I have no real complaints about any individual piece. I feel like all the pieces come together. The presentation's great. The story has heart and is interesting. Like, the battle systems are fun enough, all that. For some reason, it doesn't have that one little like wow factor, that one extra pop that would have made me put it on the main quest. I probably would have side quested it, but it would have been so close. It's like a rounding error. It just depends on which way you go.
See, that is exactly the way I felt, except for I rounded up. Like, to me, Meg's Monster is a perfect 8 out of 10 game.
I said the exact same sentence verbatim to Leah earlier, and she's like, it's exactly how I feel too. It's like, it's the world's most solid 8 out of 10, which is awesome. Like, enjoy the B.
Right.
And that's a passing grade, baby. You're going to have a good time. I did not regret my time at all.
But it's for me, it's an 8 out of 10 game that I want people to have their eyes on, and it's unique enough and does a lot of things that you don't. The story is, you've seen it before, but so much of the way that everything comes together is unique compared to its contemporaries, and that's why I feel it's worthy of the main quest. That's why I gave it that.
Totally fair, I think. Yeah.
You probably also remember, Steve. I'm glad you brought it. When we were talking goatees, you didn't know I was going to bring Cocoon. and you said, I thought maybe it was going to be Meg's Monster, and I was like, oh, Meg's Monster is probably 4 or 5. I'm not trying to, tell everybody Meg's Monster is not worthy of that. It is a very good game. It's just, there are tiers to the main quest, as we know. Like, there just are. So,
Yeah, it's the nature of the thing, right? And sometimes I feel like a game like Meg's Monster is almost a victim. I'm guilty of it for sure, where, the three of us, we're just playing games that interest us, and so we can self-select into things we already kind of know we're going to like.
Yes.
And we have to have liked it to bring it to the show. And so, like, kind of by definition, we're bringing a lot of our, like, current or future favorite games of all time. Mm-hmm. So sometimes a game like Meg's Monster kind of, air quotes, barely ekes onto the main quest, and it feels, you feel some kind of way about it. But it's like, it's just literally like standing amongst giants, right?
Yes.
Like
it's like,
it's not
Sea of Stars or Meg's Monster, right?
Basically, it's not Meg's Monster's fault that Inscryption casts such a big shadow, right? Like it's that type of thing. So I don't disagree at all with it being placed on the main quest, even if I would have put it on the side quest. I think that it is the perfect game that fits in either place. And yeah, I really liked it. I'm glad. Thank you for bringing it, because again, I had no idea it existed, and it was a very fun, very tight, like 5-ish hours or so. And that was doing everything, including getting all the achievements. For folks that play it, you pretty much just get all the achievements and everything as you play through it. But there are some side stories that unlock as you play through, and they're only temporarily available because the game is pretty linear. I would say do them all, because they all add like story, they round out characters, and none of them feel like side content. I'm actually surprised that some of them were considered side content, because if I hadn't played them, it would have left a big hole in like my understanding of certain characters' motivations and things like that.
I was actively nervous when those popped up that, I have to go do something else, or I have to save it really quick and come back. I would always be like, do I have 5-10 minutes to do this side thing? Because I don't want to forget to do it. Like that's, I knew, like, once you do the first one, it's like, oh, this is how it goes. I'm doing everyone forever and going to get my achievements whenever I can. And so it's one of those things where it gives you this green marker on the map. It's like, go do this thing. And I just never wanted to accidentally not do them. Right. But yeah,
cool. Very cool game. Quite enjoyed it. And I think any of these 3 games worth playing. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing about the show. It's like all the games we talk about are worth playing. So it's like you said, it's like a stage of worth playing, I guess. Like,
right.
I don't know. Yeah.
At the end of the day, we've got I'm looking 70 games on the main quest, 61 on the side quest. It's just a list of 130 games that are worth checking out. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. It makes for fun conversation, though. For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I do have one tidbit question for Steve, really quick. In the Goaty episode, Steve, you did best win, and I said Meg's Monster is my best win game. Did you get it when you got to that point, or you probably didn't even remember?
I didn't. It's funny. I didn't remember that conversation, but I did notice. I was like, "That's some good win."
Okay, good. That's all.
Yeah,
it's spoilery.
Nice.
You don't want to talk about it, but yeah. Okay, cool.
That's cool. Yep.
Yeah, very cool.
Awesome. So for our second opinion today, we got Meg's Monster. I'm going in reverse order. We've got Tinykin and then Inscryption, which you guys are going to have a little bit of a spoiler talk after our plugs here, I think, right?
Yeah, very much so. And I'm also, we won't do another second opinion episode for 3-4 months. I will say, I'm going to try my hardest to pluck something a little deeper from the quest log next time, because these are just pretty recent ones.
Yeah, I think the challenge for me next time is I'm going to play a side quest. Like, I'm going to go into the side quest. I'm going to pick a side quest next time, because I picked 2 games, like, these are games Josh is going to like. Like, I thought I was going to like Death's Door. I thought I was going to like, I need to, like, kind of go out of my comfort zone, I think. So I'm going to go into the side quest and say, maybe this isn't a game I would pick normally, and try it out, I think, next time.
I like
Awesome.
that. That's a good call.
Yeah. So I think we're wrapping up here, or at least we're wrapping up the main part of the show. So it's time for some plugs. You can find the show at IndieQuest Pod on the Twitters. You can also send us emails like you heard at the top at indiequestpod@gmail.com or leave us comments on the Spotify episodes, which is really cool. Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
Twitch and Twitter as Blinkoom. That's Blink OOMM, like Meg's Monster. Yeah, come hang out on the Twitch channel. I just streamed an indie game last week, so you're getting bangers all the time. Seth, what about you?
You can find me at Captain Drachma on Twitter and, of course, in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. If you want to get into that Discord, go to Patreon, search Polymedia, and select the tier that gets you in the Discord. Come hang out.
Couple of bucks and you'll get to meet some of the coolest people you ever did meet. And Burger
right.
Champ, too.
Yeah, he's there.
You can find me on Twitter at Frantic Society if you would like to follow me. And we're part of the wonderful Polymedia Network, full of awesome shows like Polykill, which is doing their bingo challenge, which I think Steve is just going to slowly get more gray hair over the next 12 months here because of the bingo challenge. But anyway, if you guys want to go see what their awesome 2024 challenge is, go listen to the podcast, go to the Discord, and participate with everybody, because I feel like this is one of the most creative like game challenges there has been out there. So kudos to you guys on that one.
Yeah.
So any other shows you want to shout out, Seth?
Go check out Point and Drink Adventure with our friends, or the whole hour. Most of us are friends. Pam, of course, and Petey Puff. I think we all love Petey Puff.
Yeah, that's true. Petey's great on that show, I'll say.
Go check them out. They talk about what they're drinking, what they're watching, and what they're playing. And Petey always puts a really fun, chill, usually like 16-bit SNES soundtrack to the background, which is awesome. So go check that out. Steve, what do you like on our network?
Tales of Lesser Medium, folks. There's a lot of video game podcasts out here. Look at us. We're one. But there's not a lot of comedy podcasts out there. And this is the rare combination of those two things. So go listen to their latest episodes about Code Veronica, which honestly, I feel like Resident Evil is kind of when they're right in their element a lot of times. So it's good stuff. Again, rare to find funny podcasts, but that is certainly one of them. So
yeah, I'm not even a Resident Evil guy, and I really enjoy those episodes. Yeah. So that's a stamp of approval right there for you.
Yep.
So, well, before I disappear and you guys talk some spoilers, I'll do some parting words. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys sticking around. Let us know if you like the Second Opinion episodes. I think it's a nice, unique take on the show, and it's really fun to do. Just kind of mix it up here and there. But yeah. If you guys have a beverage next to you, tell me what it is. I like talking about drinks. Is that weird?
It is
probably not at all.
I've been sipping on a Dr. Pepper this whole time. Dr. Pepper Zero that I told you guys I left it in the freezer by accident, and it actually it's pretty solid, man. It got me a little bit of boost to get me through the show. You know, it's awesome. Anyway, I can talk about this forever.
A little pep. This is when Frantic just hangs up. Call ended.
Well, I'm going to do that so you guys have some fun on spoilers. You'll hear the outro music and then jump right into the Inscryption spoilers.
Bye.
See ya. See you, dude. All right, folks. You're still here, and you don't want Inscryption spoilers. What the hell are you doing? All right, we gave you like 10 warnings, so this is your last chance. Inscryption is going to be fully and completely spoiled, or at least, some of the cool parts are. Yeah. So, all right, only the cool kids are left.
Yep.
Now, I gotta ask, buddy. When it turned into a Game Boy Color game.
Dude.
When it turned into the freaking Pokemon trading card game on Game Boy Color.
Seriously. That's why when that happened, I kept thinking as I'm playing the beginning of the game, Steve says that I would like this game. And I enjoyed it. Like, this is a fun game. I mean, maybe Steve understands that I enjoy a good Yu-Gi-Oh! Alike.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's fun, and I'm digging it. I think the roguelite stuff and getting all the way to Veshi and doing all that stuff is really fun. By the way, everybody's listening, Veshi is like, quote unquote, the main boss, but not really, and kind of the first boss in a way.
Yep.
One of the scribes, right? One of the, what is he, beast scribe? But then everything starts changing. And I mean, I think even before you get to the Game Boy Color part, you start to see the like videotape stuff.
Yeah, like footage stuff, like found footage.
What's
and,
happening?
Media files, of this like fake YouTuber guy, which, I mean, you've got kids that are right at that age where you're watching like pack cracking videos, and it's this fake pack cracking YouTuber.
I watch those pack cracking videos because it's just, I don't know what it is about it. It's like you don't have to spend the money on the thing.
You're spending money through them, right? Yeah.
Yes, right. And the actor that plays Luke Carter does such a good job at like doing the whole card opening YouTuber thing just perfectly.
Yeah.
Kind of overacting in a way, like, oh, what do we hope we're gonna get the Squazzledorf foil or whatever.
There's even times where like, again, like it's so well shot where he'll like go to do it and then like not be able to like be the peppy on-screen guy he needs to be, and he'd be like, I can't do this today. I can't like pretend to be this over the top guy. Well, I'll do it tomorrow.
The Game Boy Color part is excellent.
Yeah.
You were right. You said something in the review, like in the first episode on Inscryption that you talked about it. You said, I think you said something about it drip feeds the correct amount of information about the card game at the right times, where you learn it. What's wild to me is you learn only one piece of the card game for like 4 straight hours.
Yeah, you suddenly realize like, oh, I'm only playing like
one deck.
In like Yu-Gi-Oh terms or whatever. I'm playing like a mech deck or something like that.
Yes.
And it's like there's like entire other mechanics, entire other systems of like resource gathering that I've never even seen before.
It's incredible. And it's
so good.
It's funny because like the bone part, it kind of hints that there's something else going on, right? Yeah. Because each deck, so everybody that's listening has already played this game, hopefully, but basically each of these specific decks have their own niche or whatever. So the beasts, their thing that you start playing the game with, and then if you choose beast in the Game Boy Color version of the game, the 2D version of the game, there's like sacrificial stuff going on, and that's how you learn, and like that's the main mechanic. But then there's an undead deck that uses the bones to sacrifice, and like every time you sacrifice a monster, you get bone tokens that you can then spend to get more beasts on, or not beasts. In that case, it would be the undead creatures. I chose PO3.
Oh, interesting.
Because
I chose the magician.
Oh, really? Yeah. So I think those are the two most interesting, compared to the beginning of the game, ways to play the second part of the game, right?
Yep.
PO3 is it's not that hard to explain. So basically, you have a meter that has up to 6 tokens or 6 lights on it, right? And at the start of your first turn, you get 1 light lit up. And that is basically how much of a monster, it's like a sacrificial light. So if I have a monster that has 1 token of light energy, I can put that monster on the field. Next turn, that light comes back on and you get an extra one. And then next turn, you get an extra one. So then you're 3, 4, 5, and then all the way up to 6. But then there are monsters, or I guess mechs in this case, that you can play that can also grant you extra ones when you play them. And you can utilize that energy in different ways, but the fun part of this portion of the game, and what makes this game, like the card game, really, really good, is you can actually mix and match.
Yes, yeah.
So
you can make like a dual themed deck, or just pluck one or two good cards out from certain decks and put them in yours.
The robots are great for getting a bunch of like lesser like monsters on the field, but then if you what I did was I put my favorite beasts in that also require a large sacrifice, and you can just sack all the monsters in for like basically nothing. Like you can just put them all on the field and then put your grizzly out there, and then you're just ransacking. Like that's
100%. Yes,
so good.
The mechanic for the magician is there's these like 3 different like colored symbols, like a circle, square, and a triangle. I think they are, and you get cards that have those symbols on them that aren't really like attacking creatures. They just are representative of those symbols. And you have to have them on the board somewhere. And then you can summon monsters that have a summon cost of whatever the symbols are that are on the board. So you place a green triangle on the board. Now you can play any other card that has a summon cost of 1 green triangle. And it's kind of like almost like mini archetypes within a larger archetype, because different enemy, like triangle monsters will specialize in one direction and square monsters will specialize in another. So you have to decide, like, do I want to like go really hard only having the resources and cards for like 1 or 2 of these? Do I want to spread myself evenly? And so what I ended up doing is making a deck that was mostly the like stronger or sneakier ones. I think I forget, it was like trying the orange and the green cards. And then I also, like you, I had a couple of beasts. I had like 1 or 2 of the beasts that again split their attack into 2 different sections, because those are so freaking strong. You can catch enemies by surprise and get like 4 points up on them out of nowhere. And so it was such a fun blend of the 2.
Yeah. So in the episode proper that we did just before this, I mentioned to you about in what I would call the main form of the game, which is the beast deck, right? You're going up against Veshi, and then once you beat the game, you have something called Casey's mod.
Yep.
And you learn a lot about Casey. I mean, we're spoiling everything. So Casey is basically this woman that died developing the game because she learned too much about what the company, the hell is the company's name? Luna something? I can't remember.
It's got like a really good like generic fake card game company name.
Yes. But basically this is a card company that made a video game that they didn't put out for reasons that you find out. Basically the guy that you're playing as, Luke Carter, discovers this because Casey left him coordinates on one of the cards that he goes and buys from a garage sale, which is also speaks to people like us. Like
exactly.
It's so good. Like you find this, it's always my thing and our thing and everybody in the Discord's thing to go to a random garage sale or flea market and find this hidden gem of a find. Yeah. Whether it's cards or like you find a hollow Charizard sitting there and the guy doesn't know what he's got, or Earthbound chilling on the table. Like that's what Luke Carter finds. He finds inscription packs and they're very old, worth money, and he's going to rip them on the channel because they were cheap. Well, then he finds out, oh, these ones are resealed. And then he gets the coordinates, goes and finds the floppy disk. And you realize that the game you've been playing this entire time, you're only playing it because Veshi, the 4 scribes, have an opportunity in the main game to take over the game and basically turn into an escape room that you have to play. Like they force you to play it. And I mean, you tell me. Inscryption 2 easily could be made.
Yes.
It's Inscryption is basically video game Jumanji.
That's such a good way of describing. 100%. Yes.
It is so like I commented on that as soon as I found the Game Boy Color world, and then PO3 takes over. It's like, oh my, this is. They keep you here. Like, that's the whole point. They want you to play their game. Like, this is easily the other 2 scribes. Somebody else, Luke Carter, obviously has a untimely death at the end because he gets shot in the head, which was so surprising, too.
I was like, whoa, dang.
And the blood, they just let it sit there forever while the
it's like a surprising, like they hold on it for a second. It's like, wow, this game got intense. They're pulling no punches at the end here.
No, they're not. But there's so much room for the other two scribes to take over. They did not flesh them out enough, right? I mean, he kind of, I guess you're supposed to think he deleted the game at the end, but I doubt that's actually the case.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, so the funny thing for me, and you picked the magician, so you would have had a different sequence. I picked PO3 as my scribe to take over. So when PO3 took over Inscryption, I thought, oh my gosh, what if I picked one of the other ones? I could have, but it turns out PO3 takes over no matter what.
Yeah,
I had to look that up.
He's the big bad no matter what, which was interesting to me all the same. And then, I mean, even everything we've said to this point would be enough, but then PO3 takes charge, and then the game changes again into into like this like Tron dungeon crawler type game. And at that point I was like, how long is this game going to be? Like, how is there this much freaking game here?
Seriously. And I love how they fleshed out the scribes. Like Veshi, you thought, oh my god, this guy's evil as shit. Like,
yes,
he kills me every time I lose. But at the end, you're like, I miss Veshi. Veshi, my boy.
He wasn't so bad. What I wouldn't give to go back and just chill in that cabin with my boy.
At least you just wanted me to play with him. I'm literally handcuffed to a table right now with PO3. Like, he's forcing me. Oh, it's so good. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to describe the emotional roller coaster that you go through with this game, because it just keeps flipping it on its head, and just doing something different. There's nothing in this game that shouldn't take anybody by surprise. Nobody's going to predict that it's going to go the way, unless they look it up. There's just no way.
I know. I'm actually very grateful for that, because I feel like this happens with games from time to time. When you say like, oh, a game, like, I can't spoil it, but the game goes in a weird direction, right? Usually that means that the game starts breaking the fourth wall. Like, that's kind of like the implication. But Inscryption, when you say that, it is impossible to actually predict what the hell the game's going to do. It still surprises you in that same way, but like, I knew that in saying, trust me, it goes in weird directions, there's not a chance in hell that you were going to be like, you mean it turns into the Pokemon trading card game on Game Boy Color? It's just not it. But I was like, as my fellow TCG enjoyer, I knew that you'd be in for it.
Oh, it was so good. And yeah, when Luke Carter starts doing his YouTube card tuber thing, that's what I was like, oh, Steve thought I'd be into that. I am into that. And then it's like, this is the Pokemon trading card game? This is freaking nuts.
It has all the pieces, and it's got roguelite elements in it too. It's everything that, all the things that you're into packaged into a game. I was like, hell yeah, he's gonna be so into this.
Oh, I absolutely was into it. And I will say, I was nervous about the card builder part, but that's not, like, I feel like almost anybody would get through this game in between 12 and 15 hours. It's not hard necessarily, unless you get completely stumped by puzzles. But we didn't even talk about it yet. Like, certain cards talk to you, and the scribes, you find out the scribes are locked in these cards, and they're giving you hints as you go. Check the, whatever it's called, the manual that tells you all the card effects and stuff for the code. And then you figure out, oh, I got to pry my eye out for, and it's basically an auto win. And then you get this mystical eye afterwards. And it's so funny. There's like 20 eyes in this dish. And, and I was absolutely drawn to the one that looked like crazy universe seeing. Like, you're just immediately drawn to it, and then you take it and like, oh, that was the one I needed to grab, so that's good.
Yeah, they constantly, like, they always are giving you just like one little breadcrumb where you're like, what the heck, one little thread to pull, and then every time you pull it you're like, oh my god, you've bamboozled me again. Come on now. It's like they always deliver on the promise of their little Easter eggs or little crumbs. Like, there's always something. As any good, like, escape room does. That's why it's like, when you're trying to talk about the genre, you're like, well, it's a deck builder, it's a escape room, it's a a 2D RPG. It's a dungeon crawler. It's like a Sam Barlow game at some points.
Yeah. I did appreciate, honestly, when you said that initially, I was like, is this like going to become like a freaking bullet hell Gungeon like or something at some point? It obviously doesn't. And I appreciate that everything that the game teaches you throughout it builds upon itself. It's not like doing a 180 or anything. You're not completely playing a different game, but it varies the aesthetic to a point where it's like, oh, this is awesome, but I'm still I've still learned to this point, and I can still play efficiently with the knowledge that I've gained from the previous portion of it. Right. So very cool.
Yeah. Very consistent and very well paced too, even though like when you hit that like 2D top down part of the game in Act 2, you're kind of like thrown into it, and the game like doesn't give you much for a while. Like you're just kind of thrown in there like, this is what you're doing now.
Yep.
And then you realize like, oh, this is gonna take a while. And for several hours you're just playing that game, like waiting for it to loop back around. And of course eventually it does, but it's like they knew that at that exact moment that they would shock you in that way, and then they would just force you to sit in it for a little while until they eventually, brought it into the fold.
The hilarious thing about that is Daniel Mullins could have easily been any other indie developer and been like, I have 2 games here. I'm going to make these 2 games. I'm going to charge for both of them. But no, he made 2 games, 1 game, and it was amazing. Like that's so awesome to me. Like literally 2 different graphical styles, and they both play for well over 4 hours each. Like it's just nuts.
And you hit the 2D part, and you're like, oh wow, it took the time to, make 2D art, pixel versions of all the cards, and you're like, wait a minute, there's like hundreds more cards than I ever saw before. Like, there is so much here.
There's an achievement to collect all of them, which I have not done yet. But man, I can't, like, you can, once you do so much, you can go back and battle. Well, there's in the Magician's Castle or whatever, there's a totem guy that you can battle over and over and over and over and over again. I think that's what gets you more credits, and you can go buy more packs. I assume that's what you can do to eventually just collect all the cards. But I don't know what else to say. This game is incredible.
It's really freaking good.
So happy I played it. And I'm so happy I played it
dude.
as soon as I could. This game is so good.
Yeah, highly recommend. And again, he just said it. It's one of his 10 favorite games of all time now. It's up there with... There's not going to be any freaking, like, PS1 RPGs left in your top 10 after a couple years. It's just going to be 10 Devolver Digital games at this point.
It is currently 3 Devolver Digital games. Yeah. Death's Door, Gungeon, and now Inscryption. Yeah.
Go back 2-3 years and there was only 1, so it just keeps happening.
Go back 5 years and there's 0.
See?
It's crazy, man. Devolver knows where to put their stamp. I will say. They, like, God, they're good.
They are... They're both good about only picking winners, and also good about finding games that, like, some intangible quality about them makes sense as a group. Like, they all feel in some way like a Devolver game, even though they're all wildly different genres and art styles and stuff. But it's just, you could tell.
Except maybe Piku Niku.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
That's the one outlier.
That's the one that throws you off the scent. All right.
Seriously. Okay, Steve. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention before we close her out?
No, I think that's good. I'm glad you played it. And everyone listening to this part, I'm glad all of you played it.
Let us know, without spoilers, if you played it and if you enjoyed it. I'd like to hear that. So,
heck yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
See you, everybody.
Peace.
you.